South Dakota's lakes and ponds are full of biodiversity, abundant plant life, invertebrates, amphibians, aquatic animals, and all various critters which rely on these bodies for food and shelter. Lakes and ponds share many similarities, their main differences being size and depth. Ponds are more shallow, they have less volume, and limits the size of fish that can thrive and grow. Many of South Dakota's fish require cold water, such as trout, walleye, and pike. Ponds also freeze over thoroughly during the winter, limiting the space for fish to live during these months. Plants and reeds provide shelter along the banks for animals such as amphibians, panfish, minnows, and also a place to hide from predators. Some bird species, like the red-winged blackbird and osprey, make their homes near the ponds and lakes. Aquatic mammals like mink and muskrat live in burrows near or on the shoreline. East River lays numerous glacial lakes that were formed thousands of years ago during the end of the Ice Age, which serve as a great attractor for anglers and boaters alike.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Kentz and I'm the Area Fisheries Supervisor for Rapid City here at the Outdoor Campus Pond. I'm going to be talking to you about some of the fish species in western South Dakota, things that are special about the species, and some things like that, just to help you get familiar with the fish species in our area. So to start off, I'm going to talk about one of the most widespread species throughout South Dakota, and that's walleyes. So with walleyes, most of the time you're going to find these fish in larger reservoirs or larger natural lakes across the state. In western South Dakota, they're going to be in typically our big three reservoirs in western South Dakota: Angostura, Shade Hill, and Belfouche. And then we have a number of smaller waters with those fish as well. One kind of cool thing or information about walleyes is their name comes from the fact that their eyes shine in the dark if you shine a light on them. So in the spring, when walleyes spawn, they're up close to the bank and in the shallows, and if you shine a light, you can see their eyes shining, and it looks like a wall of eyes. So that's kind of something unique about walleyes that not a lot of other fish have, and that's sort of a specialized adaptation due to their predatory nature. So kind of moving on to some fish that maybe you'll find right here in our pond. Obviously this is the Great Black Hills, and trout are pretty widespread throughout the Black Hills. We have a number of different trout species, but the most common one that you're going to find is rainbow trout. Rainbow trout are pretty easily distinguished from other trout by their silver coloration and their large red stripe along their lateral line. So that's rainbow trout. We also have brown trout, we have brook trout. In some of our larger Black Hills reservoirs, we have lake trout. And then we also have some sort of unique populations of trout, like cutthroat trout, which we only have in 2 locations in the Black Hills. One is the Sturgis Reservoir's walk-in fishery, and then in Center Lake in Custer State Park. Another sort of unique trout species that we have is tiger trout. Not a lot of people are really familiar with tiger trout, but they're a hybrid between a brown trout and a brook trout. They're a really cool looking fish with a lot of lines and vermiculations across their body. And you can find those in Custer State Park, in Sylvan Lake, and in Center Lake. So those are kind of our trout species. And then you really can't talk about fish in South Dakota without going through the panfish. So, you know, probably the most widespread panfish species is bluegills. Bluegills are, very highly reproductive fish. They provide great sport fishing, as well as provide good prey resources in lakes where we have largemouth bass. So what you'll find a lot in western South Dakota is we have a lot of like stock dams and farm ponds, and the perfect fishery scenario in those farm ponds and stock dams is sort of a bass and bluegill option, where you get large bass from feeding on the prey of the bluegill, and the largemouth bass kind of keep the bluegill populations in check, allowing those fish to grow and reach good sizes for anglers to catch as well. So you're going to have bluegill out here in this pond. You're also going to have black crappie. We also have a few populations of white crappie. White and black crappie are a pretty desirable sport fish for anglers looking for good panfish options. They're great pond fish. We have them in a lot of small dams and our bigger reservoirs all across South Dakota. So you've got that, and then I guess the next one to talk about would probably be yellow perch. Yellow perch are another really desirable sport fish species. A lot of people like to eat perch. Perch are actually in the same family of fish as walleyes, and so like I said, very desirable sport fish. They're pretty abundant across South Dakota. A lot of waters have yellow perch, especially in the Black Hills. We have a number of lakes with yellow perch, Sheridan Lake, Deerfield, Pactola, and then we also stock yellow perch into a number of our smaller water bodies across western South Dakota, out on the prairie. So that's a number of different fish species. Certainly there's other ones that you may encounter, but I think that'll give you a good start and get you on your way to understanding what we have here in western South Dakota for fish resources.